Cheers out there in listening world. Yeah, that's a good start to a podcast. Welcome back, everybody, to Sippin With Sin. Let's take a little sip of this delicious milk stout to kick the podcast off. Left Hand Brewing, no shout outs, but s'mores milk stout. Tasty. Does the body well. But welcome back to another episode. We hit a nice milestone last episode with hitting, 10 episodes I believe we recorded. So that's an awesome little feat for us, considering we finally started the damn thing and we've been recording and we've already got 10 episodes under our belt. But we got a fun episode ahead for you this week. We got some news to talk about and some lot of fun stuff and things, you know. So I'm not going to drag on too long. Instead, we're going to welcome our esteemed co-host, the one, the only, Christian. Christian, welcome back, sir.
Hello, everyone. How you doing?
We got to get like the accent going there. Like,
yeah, my fault.
Like Joey from Friends or something. But how are you this week, sir?
I'm doing all right, man. It's been a busy week, but I'm here to speak.
Amen. It has.
I didn't even mean to rhyme.
It has been nutty how crazy busy it's been. But we won't dilly-dally too long. Instead, we'll get into the usual. If you've been listening, if you're brand new, what we like to do to start every episode, we like to discuss what we've been watching, listening to, reading, or playing over the week. And so let's do that. Christian, what's been on the docket for the week?
Today, I watched the usual, of course, but this week I've been reading. I've been reading a lot more, and I read this book. It's called Night of the Mannequins. It's by Stephen Graham Jones, and it's kind of like an adult Goosebumps book, if you will. Essentially, it's a small town, a group of kids.
I love
they
Goosebumps.
prank each other a lot. Yeah, man. But these guys are like in high school. You know, they're getting ready to graduate. And instead of doing like the typical high school movie tropes that they, kids do, like, banging everybody and doing a bunch of drugs, these kids like to prank each other. And they find a mannequin one day, and they name it Manny because they're just that cool. And they start pranking each other with Manny. And one of the kids, the narrator, who is pretty freaking unreliable to begin with, he says that he sets Manny up at one of the friends' jobs, which is a movie theater. And Manny watches the movie, and it's supposed to be a big joke. But at the end of the movie, Manny gets up and walks out of the theater. And because he's a mannequin, it's just like, oh my God, how did this mannequin get up and walk out of here? This is crazy. So that's the kind of plot of the book. So I won't ruin it for people who want to read it, but it's a quick read. I read it in like a day and a half, 2 days. It's really nice, really simple, really sweet, to the point. I enjoyed it. And then the other novel I'm reading is called Mexican Gothic. That book is by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and it's pretty great so far. I mean, I really like it. I thought it was going to be something other than what it is, but I am pretty presently surprised with what's going on. I've been taking several trips to the library and just, trying some stuff out. And I enjoy this book a lot. I really don't want to get into it too much because I went into it not knowing much. And I think it's the best that way for all our readers out there. It's definitely worth it. If you like kind of suspenseful stories, then give Mexican Gothic a try. It's not too long of a book. It's like 300 something pages. I think it's just like a solid 300 pages, to be honest with you. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's like 301 pages maybe. It's super quick read. I'm about done with it. I've got a few chapters left, but it's nice. But that's what I've been doing this week. I've been reading that.
Look at you being all cultured and stuff. First off, I want to bring up the first book. You said what normal teenagers in high school do: drugs and sex each other up, hit each other with the sexuals.
Correction, sir. I believe what I said was the typical tropes that teenagers have.
Okay. I was about to say, I was like, what high school? I mean, okay. Your high school was wild, apparently.
I mean, my high school was a little wild. There were a lot of people banging. There were a lot of drugs. Not different types of drugs necessarily, but there were definitely drugs. There's definitely alcohol during parties and whatnot. So stuff definitely happened in high school. But honestly, man, I was just one of those kids who, thought a little smarter and just didn't engage and indulge in a lot of that stuff. Like, I didn't have any reason to. They'd do anything for me. Being drunk or high or whatever, I had a hard enough time just paying attention in class. So that's the last thing I needed to do.
Okay. All right. So that's all it's you've been reading this week. You haven't been watching anything, you just been reading, being super cultured and fancy for us, Mr. Intelligent.
Yeah, I mean, I have, I've been paying attention to the trial a little bit, but other than that, when I say the trial, I mean the trial between Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. It's interesting. I'll say that it's very interesting.
Okay. All right. So for me this week, I am I've got a watch that I've been watching, something I've been playing, and something I've been listening to. So I have a little bit of each. We'll start with what I've been
Ooh.
watching. I don't know, maybe something's wrong with me, but I tend to be very fascinated with serial killers and learning about, I guess, their story and kind of all the things like the whole investigation, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I got the psychology of it, all that. But I've been watching the Gacy tapes, the John Wayne Gacy tapes on Netflix. Me and the missus have been watching it. I watched
Oh
the
yeah.
documentary they did on Peacock, maybe question mark, a while back. But this is actually like tapes of Gacy, like him being interviewed and talking, and shit's wild, man. Like it blows my mind how not affected by anything they are. Like they're talking about like,
Right.
oh yeah, it's like, oh, what'd you do today? I got up and drank some coffee, made breakfast. They're like, oh yeah, I just murdered these people. I had like 20 something people, and however many under my house. It's just it's not anything to them. It blows my mind, but it is interesting. Um, so I've been watching that. We're not done with it, but I found that stuff fascinating for whatever reason, like all the Bundy stuff and Dahmer and all those. I don't know if that's something
It
that
is very interesting.
you get into it too. It interests you.
Yeah, like especially when I was young. So when I was a lot younger, I was into it a lot, and I would go to the library and seek out, true crime books and books about that kind of thing of that nature. And I got to say, like my mom was a little disturbed by it. The people at the library were a little disturbed by it, but I mean, it was just something that I was into that wasn't, the typical for me comic books and manga and stuff like that. And whatever else I was into. I can't remember exactly, like Goosebumps and stuff, like Animorphs. When it wasn't that kind of shit, it was, looking into the true crime stuff, serial killers. I was really into like what serial killers thought about, how to get in their head. I was reading all kinds of stuff like that. I read a lot of stuff about them back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And yeah, man, I was probably on a freaking list for people to watch because I was always looking into that stuff and trying to find it. And back when YouTube was in its infancy, man, I used to watch every single documentary I could find about serial killers in general. And I even had my top three favorites, which turned into a top 10 favorite. Like it was
Ooh,
insane.
who? Okay.
Yeah, man.
First off, that's like not favorites as in like heroes, but like favorites as in like the most interesting. I guess we should
Right,
clarify.
absolutely. Just for
Yeah.
clarification, I
Yeah,
don't
just
think
before
any
someone's
of
like,
these
"Oh
people
shit,
really.
their favorite serial
Yeah.
killers," like interesting, like fascinating. Who are your top three? That piqued my interest a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
Um, I would honestly have to do work, like a little bit of research to remember, but I do know that Gacy was definitely in the top three. Eileen Warnos was in the top three, and I think who was the other? It was I want to say it was God, Dahmer, I believe, just because of how he would do certain things and how charming he was. It was very interesting to read for myself, So I was really into seeing how he got away with a lot of that
I
stuff.
don't know the second
But
one. I don't
also,
think the second one you
what's up?
named.
Eileen Warnos.
Yeah, I don't think I know that one.
Yeah, she's like one of the most famous female serial killers of our time. She actually come out the early 2000s with Charlize Theron and her partner in the movie slash only friend was played by Wednesday Adams herself, Christina Ricci. So
No.
I watched that movie, bought it on DVD because that was before the time of Blu-ray, of course. I watched that movie quite a few times, man. It was very interesting to me. I really liked Charlize Theron. This is before I even knew who Charlize Theron was. That was the first movie I saw her in, and I didn't realize, like, because of the makeup and prosthetics that she had, I didn't realize it was Charlize Theron at first. But I knew who Christina Ricci was. I had a giant crush on her since like watching Casper and and Adam's Family and all that. So I watched it primarily because she was in it, and then realized that this was like a serial killer kind of biopic. So I watched that, and it was very good. I really liked it. It's underappreciated film for sure. So if you haven't seen it, check out Monster. It's great.
Monster? Just Monster.
Yeah, just Monster. Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's crazy. I guess there's like again, this sounds terrible, but like kind of a golden age of serial killers. It was like what, like the 60s and 70s, was it not? Before like law enforcement would communicate across state lines and like talk to each other and all that. And me and the missus were talking about it. You know, you don't really see that type of behavior as much now. And I actually Googled, and there was a serial killer. Well, I guess it's serial killer. They killed like 4 people in Virginia. It was the shopping cart killer that just got caught. Like they would get these people and like kill them, and then how they would end, they would throw them in a shopping cart, and that's how people would find them.
Jesus.
Yeah, but I mean, what was it? I guess it's 60s and 70s, maybe early 80s, but that's when serial killers are like these big notorious ones were just running amok, like the Bundys and Dahmers and all that. I think Gacy was 70s. Maybe he was late 60s.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully, it's a lot harder for those types of people to get away with stuff like that because of how forensics works and just general tracking the government does. Like they know where you are pretty much at all times. So
it blows my mind how like not far behind, but how kind of dumb things were back then. Like when you hear them, they're like, oh, well, we had him for this and we let him go because we didn't think anything of it. Or like how many times they could have had him, or if they would have just, like how I guess stuff is compared now. You just hear like how law enforcement did things. You're like, oh my God, like what the hell were they doing? But back then they didn't know, and now they've learned from these, and obviously it has gotten better, like you said. But there's so many times they say stuff, I'm like, Jesus.
Understandable.
But that could be a whole other podcast, just serial killer talk. Like I said, it fascinates me for whatever reason. I guess the psychology of it or whatever, but I enjoy watching documentaries and stuff about it. So I got into that this week. I've been going down, I blame the missus for this, but I've went down memory lane. And Christian, you'll probably appreciate this, but I have listened to For Today recently.
Nice.
I can't remember the freaking album. It's not Portraits. I can't remember what album it is. But I've been listening to it, and it was, dude, it kind of hit me in the feels because I used to jam For Today, and probably my favorite Parkway Drive album. I don't know what made me decide to listen to Parkway Drive, but Horizons.
It's been a minute since I listened to them.
Horizons album, and dude, man, I was like, That's so been listening to that. Been throwing back some jams, some nice metalcore fun back then, and then. Since I have beat Elden Ring, I've been kind of stalling, working on new game, getting ready for new game, and just doing goofy things, farming weird things. A game has come out that I've been interested in and kind of watching from afar, but I haven't kept too closely up with it, but it dropped yesterday. And it's free to play on PS5 and PC, and that game is Vampire the Masquerade Blood Hunt. So if you don't know what it is a free-to-play battle royale game where you use supernatural powers to fight to become the ultimate vampire. Blah, blah, blah. It's pretty crazy. There's like clans and stuff and different powers. Each vampire has their own unique abilities and all, and then guns, and you're jumping from rooftops and jumping around, landing on cars and destroying them, and just, it's wild. It's pretty fast-paced. The movement's good. I've been playing I played a little bit on the stream this morning, and I sucked at it. I was boo-boo shoes, but I had a pretty damn good time. I can't lie. Even the lobby where you're running around inside this like gigantic mansion thing with other vampires running around. I don't know. It's pretty cool. You can customize them how they look. The Nosferatu clan looks like some damn Nosferatu vampires, and it's been pretty fun. I'm excited to play more of it. And yeah, so that's been what I've been into this week. I brought a little diversity to us. And of course, cool. What?
I was just saying that sounds cool. I would play it. I don't typically go for those types of games, but it sounds like something I would at least give a shot to. So I like that.
So it's pretty cool because you can like scan the world and kind of see like enemies and stuff. And then there's like civilians, and different civilians have different like perks they give you. Like this one will help you like regenerate a little quicker, or this one will give you an extra life. Like if you die, you can respawn, and so forth. But whenever you go and you bite a civilian, it pretty much marks you for like a minute where everyone can see you on the map. And then there's these NPCs that I don't understand, but they will light your ass up. Like, I don't know. I don't know what the point of them are. They look like little RoboCops or something. They just destroy you. Hadn't figured that part out yet, but it's pretty cool. It's definitely got some promise to it. Like, yeah, I've enjoyed it though. I think you would dig it. It's kind of right up your alley. Even for being a shooter. It's third person. I get like H1Z1 vibes, and someone else mentioned what was the game? Hyperscape, because of like the rooftops jumping around, like how crazy that was. But it's been pretty cool. But enough of that. What else I've been watching, as I'm sure Christian has, and is our first segment, as how it's been the last few weeks. I can't talk because I'm so excited about it. But Moon Knight, we have the 5th episode of Moon Knight come out yesterday, the time of recording this. And yeah, Christian, do you want to lead away with what you thought about the most recent episode of Moon Knight?
Yeah, sure. So this is episode 5, the penultimate episode, right? And is titled Asylum, from if I remember correctly. And I mean, we get answers to like. Let me start off by saying this. Last week, I came in real hot with Moon Knight. I came in real hot. The episode was good, but I didn't appreciate some of the humor. I still don't quite appreciate Mr. Knight. Blah blah blah. With that said, this episode was straight fire. It was gold. I loved this episode. It's probably going to be my favorite episode of the entire series. I don't see how next week's episode can be better than this. Just getting that out the way.
Oh, I know how it can be better. If Werewolf by Night shows up in the next week's episode, it wins by default right away.
Okay.
Or Blade. All right. Oh my God. If either one of them shows up, I'm done. I'm flipping the table. It's over.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that one. So we're still in this episode. We're still firmly in Mark's mind. And I knew this going in because I've read so much of the Moon Knight lore and comics. But the viewers, especially people who aren't familiar with Moon Knight like yourself, you know for a fact now that Mark Spector is the definitive person. He is the first one. He is the original. You see that who Stephen Grant is. Stephen Grant is a personality that he made for himself to kind of escape life. You know what I mean? He has mental breaks, and he created this alter, is what I'm going to call Stephen, in order to live a different life. Stephen is his own person. He has his own personality, his own way of speaking, talking, all that we know from the show, but now it's just cemented. No more questions for that. We learn who Mark Spector is. We learn how Moon Knight came to be. We learn how he essentially died. That is a change from the comics, by the way. They give us the origin essentially of Moon Knight. In the comics, Mark Spector gets killed by Bushman, who is mentioned in this episode, and he's killed at the tomb of Khonshu, and Khonshu offers him a deal. And he takes the deal. He becomes Moon Knight. Boom, bam, bam. That's it. And in the comics, initially, he made the persona of Stephen Grant to be the rich kind of playboy, to see what socialites were doing, to see what kind of crimes were going on for that. And he also made Jake Lockley, which was his, eyes and ears, who did he was a cab driver, which we saw a cab. If you caught it, we saw a cab driving by before Mark switched fully to Stephen after the funeral, or during the funeral, of his mom. We saw the cab driving by, so that's another Easter egg to Jake Lockley, who wasn't cemented in this episode that we saw. But anyway, so that's essentially how he becomes Moon Knight, and he does all these things in order to better be Moon Knight. His mind cracks after switching personality so much, and then he doesn't know who's who, what's what, and who's the original. But Marvel geniusly retconned that not too long ago, actually, and made it to where he has always had these personalities. It started when he was a kid. He has DID, which is dissociative identity disorder. And that's why Moon Knight has so many personalities. You have Moon Knight, Mr. Knight, you have Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, Jake Lockley. So those 5 personalities right off the rip are the ones that you get during the comic story. But in this, it's dumbed down a little bit. And I don't want to use dumbed down as a bad term here, but it is consolidated is a better term. It's consolidated into Mark's brother passes thanks to stupid decisions that kids make because they're kids. Of course, his brother passes, and to deal with that trauma, he creates the altar of Stephen Grant
Does
and
that
his
happen in the
mom.
comic about the brother?
His brother doesn't die in the comics. His brother is very much alive and ends up becoming a villain and
Okay.
takes over the power of Moon Knight at one point. But I don't remember a whole lot about his brother because that's in the earlier comics for Moon Knight, and he hasn't been relevant since that I know of. So I actually forgot about his character completely during that episode. And then I thought about it later and was like, wait a minute, he did have a brother, but I don't think he died. And then I went back to the drawing board of comics and found out that, yeah, he does have a brother, of course. He just didn't die like that. But I really like how they did it in the show. That's one change that the show made that I actually like better because it better explains why his switching back and forth, altering, if you will, personalities. That makes way more sense. So I enjoy that. I enjoyed going to like the duet. That was awesome. The Field of Reeds was awesome. Them trying to come to terms with each other and figure out what was the truth between each other in the hospital so that they could get the scales of justice to determine whether or not they could go to the Field of Reeds was awesome. The CGI in this episode was actually pretty on point as well. Like it's been wonky in certain episodes, but it was much better in this episode. Seeing the room full of people that Mark has killed as Moon Knight was fantastic. I'm so glad that they had that in there. I'm so glad that they told you that he straight up killed these people as Moon Knight to further distinguish that Moon Knight doesn't give a damn. He will kill you. Like that's a whole thing. The only difference is, like I said earlier, in the comics, Moon Knight is more his own person than him just being Mark with a mask on. Um, but I mean, take it or leave it, doesn't matter to me. Like I still really, really enjoy that about this episode. So I love that. I love the reveals that we get. I love about the issues he has as a child, his mom beating him and being an alcoholic, which is not in the comics, by the way. But I really like that change. That's a really, really good change. I love seeing him go to the funeral and he can't deal with his mom's death because it's his mom. He still loves her, obviously, even after all the shit she put him through. And then he straight alters into Steven, and Steven takes over essentially for months because if you remember in the second episode, I want to say it was, the second episode when he's talking to Layla for the first when Steven is talking to Layla from the first time after he has gotten Mark's phone on and all that stuff. She says, "Oh, you're talking to your mother again," because she doesn't know that his mother passed because he went to the funeral without telling her, altered into Mark, and then started living a whole life as Mark. And then he was altering. I'm sorry, as Steven. I meant to say altering as Steven and living Steven's life and then becomes Mark when he's doing Moon Knight shit. So they explain that very well without just telling you. They showed you that. I love all of that stuff. I love seeing Mark lose control. I love seeing the acting of him just switching back and forth between those characters and having mental breakdowns and having a mental breakdown in his own head in the facility with Dr. Harrow. I loved all of that stuff. It was fantastic. I still want to know when we're going to get Jake. I want to know when Werewolf by Night's supposed to show up because that was rumored that he was showing up in the last episode. So I can't wait to see that. And then I also really like that the Hippo Goddess, I can't think of her name right now. No, it starts with a T, but I can't remember her name right now. But I love that she straight tells them that, yeah, she can put them, they can go back to their body if they want, but they'll still have a bullet in their chest, or two bullets, I think, and they're still gonna die. So like, even if they go back to their body in the real world, they're still gonna just die again because there's a bullet in them, and they need Khonshu because Khonshu, one of his powers, if you didn't know, is straight up resurrection. If you die, Khonshu can just bring you back to life. So Moon Knight, the character in the comics, has died several times, and Khonshu just brings his ass back because that's what he can do. So I really like that. And I also, another thing I really, really enjoyed was Steven actually letting Mark know, like, Khonshu's been manipulating you from the beginning. That is a very telling line. That's something out of the comics that they pull again. I really, really enjoyed how they did that. Just I can't, there's not enough good things I can say about this episode. So as you guys can already see, I enjoyed this episode. It's probably going to be my favorite episode. Marvel shows usually do this. The second to last episode is usually the best one. The penultimate episode is usually the best one. So that's the same with this. And those are my thoughts generally on episode 5 of Moon Knight Asylum. What are your thoughts?
I thought it was a really, really cool way. Again, I'm coming in as someone that's not read the material like you have. For me, I thought it was a very cool way to give a backstory without having like a flash, like whatever normal sequence, like him going, seeing his thoughts while inside his head, being dead and all that stuff, and seeing how the altars come about, like all those memories. And it gave you that whole backstory of how he became to be what he is, how he had this issue, like being able or having the different altars and all that stuff. I also thought that Steven grew some damn balls this episode. I think Steven's balls finally dropped. And I think I personally have a high hope that Steven and Mr. Knight are now going to be more badass like Mark and Moon Knight after this episode, because Steven makes a comment at one point when they're getting attacked. He's like, well, I'm you. I can do everything you can do. So it's like he finally realizes, hey, I can whoop ass too. Like, I don't need Mark to fight people and me run around being all goofy. Like, we're the same damn person. Mark created me. So I think now, hopefully, they'll be more serious. I still think Steven's going to be the comic relief, but I don't think he's going to be the idiot as much. Now he has the Egyptian knowledge, all that stuff, and now that he knows he can do what Mark can do, I think hopefully both those characters will be stronger as far as all that goes. I agree the CGI was really good. There was one thing that I noticed, and it's probably one of the dumbest things ever, but I liked how much the hippo's ears, I can't think of the god's name either, so I'm just going to call it hippo. The ears flicked like a hippo would. If you know what I'm talking about, like how the little hippo's ears will do like that little flick every now and then. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That it does it throughout the episode. Every time I would kind of like chuckle a little. I don't know why. I'm probably a child, but I like that. I think Jake shows up in the finale. I think they're building to it because, like you said, there are a lot of things that have kind of pointed to Jake. I think he shows up in the finale. I hope Werewolf by Night shows up in some form or somebody. But I thought it was a very, very good episode. It's a really cool way to give the backstory and to tie everything together and kind of bring you up to speed and kind of make Moon Knight more solidified, I guess, like the altars and stuff where it's working together better. Oscar Isaac is knocking it out of the park. He is doing fan-freaking-tastic, I think. Just what he's doing with the different characters, the different altars. And I also love the way they're shooting it with the cuts. With the cuts, especially now when he's in his own head, how, we're watching Steven and Mark do one thing and then it cuts and it's back to them being in the asylum and stuff like that. I personally love that. I love that effect of it. So I really enjoyed it. I actually really enjoyed this episode. I don't have anything I think that was negative that bothered me. I was happy that Steven finally toughened up, I guess, for lack of better words. But yeah, I liked it. There was also, so one thing I want to throw out there, I think that might be a reason that both of us like this episode. Who did we not see much of in this episode, Christian?
Who did we not see much of in this episode?
Who was not in this episode, really?
There was absolutely no Moon Knight in this episode.
No. You're going the wrong direction, sir.
Well, I lied. There was Moon Knight. We saw him become Moon Knight. So
that was actually really badass, too, when he turned into Moon Knight that time. That was actually really cool. No, his wife. She's not really.
Oh, Layla.
She wasn't in it, really? Like, so the episode was better. Yeah, like I said, I don't care for her character. She's not bringing anything to me. Like, she's not adding really anything to the story.
That's fair. I mean, I'm only laughing because I also don't really care for Layla's character. She serves a purpose, and her purpose essentially is to
be the love interest.
Bring Steven back to life. Her purpose in the next episode is to free Khonshu so that he could bring Mark back. So I mean that's really it. But other than that, I agree. She's not the best character in this. And that's sad because she had so much potential in the first couple of episodes. and even in the third one. But like I'm just saying, like episode 4 just really turned me off to Layla's character. And I mean that's subject to change. Maybe I'll like her a lot in this last episode in the
Yeah.
finale, but right now I feel the same.
I also really like Ethan Hawke's character. I like him. I think he's doing a pretty good job with it.
Great villain.
Yeah. But I agree. Good episode. Yeah, I really don't have any negative things on it. I mean, I think it was a good way to tie them two finally together because they've kind of been, I don't know, it's been kind of weird at parts with them two. Like, you see Mark, you know it's going to be badass parts. You see Steve, and you're like, here comes the comedy relief. And I think it's still going to be like that, but now there's some progression. So maybe, I have hopes that maybe Mr. Knight will not be as goofy, if you will. Moving forward.
I'd like that.
So hopefully. But yeah, all in all, it sounds like we both gave it a good review for this episode. It was a good one, though. I can say as a whole, I have enjoyed the show. I look forward to Wednesdays when it comes out. I look forward to watching it. I would love to see Moon Knight in more stuff, and I'm hoping there obviously will be more based on what you said, or even more appearances at movies or whatever. I would like to see Oscar Isaac as Moon Knight in more stuff.
Be nice.
The character is interesting. I like the lore and all that, so it's been good. Hopefully the finale doesn't disappoint and we get some stuff we've been waiting on. If we do, then next week will be just absolutely pandemonium on this podcast. We'll be going bananas. All right.
Yeah, that'll be fun to see as well.
But moving on, before we get into the next stuff, I wanted to briefly touch today, the day of recording this, is the start of the 2022 NFL draft. So I just wanted to quickly touch base. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole on, mock drafts and all that stuff. If you're watching YouTube, you can see I'm a Titans fan. I'm wearing the Titans hat today, and they picked 26th as of right now. No second round pick tomorrow, but they have a third round pick. Curious to see if we actually drafted 26th, if we trade up to go after somebody, or if we trade down and maybe gain a couple picks. We'll see what we do. Should be an interesting draft. It is a lot of stories going into this, like Baker Mayfield potentially being traded, Deebo Samuel. There's just a lot of stuff going on, so it should be a pretty interesting draft. I always kind of nerd out on this as a football fan. I enjoy the draft. And I just wanted to quickly throw out there the teams that have the most draft picks. It looks like I have the top 4 teams that have the most draft picks this year in the 2022 NFL draft. The Chiefs have 12 picks, the Jags have 12 picks, the Packers have 11 picks, and the Texans have 10 picks. So it should be a fun draft. The missus enjoys it. We're going to have a friend over watching, a buddy, and just eating some pizza and watching the draft and, hanging out. It's always a good time. And, yeah. So I wanted to quickly just throw that out there. I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole. I'm sure we'll briefly touch on how that goes in a future episode because it is it'll be today, Friday, and Saturday. So it's a 3-day thing. Going over, but I enjoy it, so it'll be a fun thing. So I'll be watching that this evening. But Christian, I believe, has some news and stuff he wants to go over, so we are going to give the floor back to Christian.
Hey man, I really appreciate that. Today, I wanted to talk about CinemaCon, and I wanted to. Before I do that, I want to briefly touch on the Amber Heard Johnny Depp trial. I have been paying attention to that. I've been seeing what's going on.
Christian,
I know I talked about that in tandem last week. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. There was a tingling in my loins when you said CinemaCon because I forgot about that just recently happened, and I've seen some news, and I really think you're going to talk about what I've seen. And there was a tingling in my nether regions. Okay, I just wanted to get that out there because, sometimes when that happens, you got to let it out. You can't hold it in.
Absolutely. No, I get it. And like I said, I wanted to keep the Amber Heard stuff quick. All I wanted to say was this week of trials has finished for the most part. They'll continue again next week. We've gotten some interesting testimonies, but it's not looking good for Amber, which is great because she's a piece of shit and she likes to poop in beds. But with that said, it is confirmed now, 100% confirmed that she did in fact poop in Johnny's bed. That wasn't a story he made up. There's evidence against her now for this. She actually told Johnny's security that she did that. She also got mad at him during her birthday party because he showed up late. He showed up late because he was in a meeting with his management team, letting him know that he had been robbed by previous management and they hadn't paid his taxes like they were supposed to be doing for years, and they were taking that money for themselves and pocketing it. So he was during that meeting. She got pissed off, took his wallet and some other personal belongings with his phone, threw it off the roof of where they were staying. His security team went out the next day looking for his stuff. They ended up finding it with a homeless guy, or a man experiencing homelessness, excuse me. And they gave him a reward for it. And the reward, from what I understand, was some chicken tacos, some Fiji water, a couple bags of chips, and $420. So yeah, they gave this man $420 in cash, and some food for his cooperation, which I thought was awesome. And I just wanted to share that with you guys before I go into CinemaCon, which we will start now. So I'm gonna kind of go in order on this, and then I'm sure I'll remember stuff that I forgot or that you might ask me about, Sin yourself, and I'll talk about those on the way. But to just go down the list that I remember, because I should have wrote it down, but for Warner Brothers, of course, they had theirs, and they announced the Batman 2, like we didn't know that was going to happen. So they are going to start working on, or are working on, the Batman 2, the sequel. So that's going to be awesome. I'm super excited for that. I can talk about that at another time, though, because that's a whole podcast in and of itself. We got some footage for Black Adam, which is supposed to be hitting the public in a few weeks, I believe, and I believe that's still coming out in October. So yeah, we'll start getting stuff about Black Adam this summer to gear us up for sure. We got some Flash footage. I believe I talked about the Flash last week and all the shit that Ezra Miller's done. They never mentioned Ezra Miller's name during CinemaCon. They just refer to the Flash, the character himself, never speaking his name. People came out, talked about the movie. They showed us some footage. And apparently it was really good from what I'm hearing. So I'm still excited about that, but like I'm holding my breath. And then we got some footage for Aquaman 2. I think it's called The Lost Kingdom. They announced some other films as well that they're working on. Oh, and another thing, they did show some footage, I believe, about Shazam, Fury of the Gods, just so that's out there. But they did announce the Batman 2. They did announce Creed 3, and they announced Dune 2, which I'm super excited for. Dune was one of my favorite movies of the past year, so I can't explain to you guys how excited I am to see more Dune. I
Dune
need
was
it right
awesome.
now.
That was a really good movie.
Yes, it was. It was fantastic. I love the effects. I love the acting. I love the soundtrack. I love the soundtrack. That movie was fantastic. But
Yeah.
we'll circle back to Dune because that movie is great. And
Did you say what did you say? Creed 3?
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
I guess there is 2. Okay, never mind. I'm on board now. I was trying to think. For some reason, I thought there was already 3 of those, but there's not.
No, they talked about doing a third one a while ago, but Michael B. Jordan was doing some other stuff, and I know he was doing some shit with Disney, so there's no telling, man.
Okay.
Aside from that, we got Sony. They talked about Bullet Train, which we've already seen the trailer for. We know that's coming out with Brad Pitt.
Yep.
They announced they're doing a Ghostbusters sequel to the one with like the Stranger Things kid in it. They're doing a Venom 3 is announced. And then obviously they talked about Across the Spider-Verse, and then the sequel to that, which is going to be called Beyond the Spider-Verse. So I'm excited to see what happens for those films.
Wait,
I love
that's 2 different films?
Stuff. So it's like Spider-Verse 1 and 2, just like the Avengers Infinity War was initially called Infinity War Part 1 and Part 2.
So this is the sequel to Into the Spider-Verse or whatever, right?
It is the sequel to that. But
and there's
instead
2
of them
parts
just having
in
the
the sequel.
Name, yes.
Okay. I'm following now. Yeah. I didn't know it was 2 parts.
Yeah, it's 2 parts. So they'll have Across and Beyond. They're going to come out a year between each other, just like the Avengers did. Okay. Capitalize on that money, man. That's what they're doing.
Into the Spider-Verse was really good. I liked it.
Yeah, it's if it honestly, man, just like how Batman Mask of the Phantasm is the best Batman movie of all time. It just happens to be animated. Same with Spider-Man. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is the best Spider-Man movie of all time. It just happens to be animated. With No Way Home, man. Anyway, we'll talk about that later. Let's keep going. So we got Sony. which I just explained. So we have all those movies coming out, and then I think Paramount, they didn't have a whole lot that I was interested in. So forgive me if I'm missing something that you guys wanted to hear, but they are working on a Dungeons and Dragons movie, which I mean, yeah, sign me up. I mean, I'm a giant nerd. I played Dungeons and Dragons once. I played proper D&D one time, and then I played some offshoots of D&D with some homies, which was awesome. But like a D&D movie, yeah, I want to see what they're going to come up with. I hope it's not like a P, which it obviously very well could be. I want that to be good, man. I really do. So we'll see what happens with that. Of course, they talked about Top Gun Maverick, which I actually don't really care about. I'm not going to lie. They announced Scream 6, which we knew they were doing. So I'm really excited about that. I don't know if it's going to be called Scream 6, but for the sake of this recording, we're just going to say Scream 6.
Scream again.
Scream for me. I don't know. But they are doing, obviously we knew that they were filming Mission Impossible 7. I believe they're filming Mission Impossible 7 and 8 like close to back, I want to say.
I didn't know they were doing that.
Yeah, I think that they're doing that. Like they gotta milk Mission Impossible for all it's worth, because the last two films were pretty good, and Tom Cruise is just getting older. And the last time he was doing a MI movie, he like broke his foot or some shit trying to do all these crazy ass stunts. So they're just gonna milk him until he's dead. You know what I mean? Like
I don't even know that I watched the last two. I'm gonna be honest. I don't know the last Mission Impossible I've watched.
The very last one that they did with Henry Cavill, like, absolutely watch that one. Do yourself a favor and watch that one. It was fantastic. I loved it.
Okay.
And then I think Paramount's also doing the new Transformers movie that's coming out. It's called Rise of the Beasts, and that's supposed to be like the Beast Wars type film. Beast Wars being my favorite offshoot of Transformers, because that's what I grew up with in the 90s, watching the CGI show. Beast Wars was fantastic. It had cool toys. It's got comics coming out and stuff now, but I'm not too versed in the comics universe. Like, I just dipped my toe in it, so I couldn't speak to that. But I mean, it's another Transformers. Like, I'm really tired of Transformers right now because Michael Bay just kind of ruined that for me. But hopefully this is good. Like the Bumblebee movie that came out was actually pretty good. I did enjoy that movie. And I loved seeing the G1 versions of like Optimus and Bumblebee in the movie. But then we got like the newer Bumblebee that we're used to in the film. So like, I'm excited to see what it looks like. I'm not necessarily excited to go to the theaters and watch it, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
But I put it on the list because, it's interesting enough. And then Universal, they put out some stuff. Jamie Lee Curtis was present at CinemaCon. And I forgot to mention that during the Black Adam footage, they had The Rock on the screen talking, and then he said, fuck it, and like actually comes out. He was there wearing the same clothes he wore to film whatever the little joke was. So he was present, and he introduced the film to them. So Jamie Lee Curtis came out, and she showed them some footage for Halloween Ends. And as much as I didn't care for Halloween Kills, I'm really excited to see how Halloween Ends does actually end. I'm super excited to see that. I want it to be over. I want more Michael, and I'm sure in 5, 6, 7 years they're just going to reboot it anyway. So I'll get more Michael Myers eventually, but I do really want this next movie. I'm excited for it. It can't get any worse than the shit we just saw. So let's go for it.
And Jamie Lee Curtis apparently said that the ending will fuck you up. Exact like words.
How do you think that would happen?
Do what?
How do you think it would fuck you up?
That's what she said. Like in whatever her intro or whatever, like at the end she said, whatever you're thinking, but the ending will fuck you up. And that's like not me just ad-libbing words. That she said that. Like it's, like quoting her or whatever, but
one of three things is going to happen in this film. One, he dies, she lives. Two,
no, it's not happening.
I'm just telling you,
it's not happening.
It's either one of them walks away, neither one of them walks away.
That one,
yeah. I mean, which makes the most sense. Like they're both so old.
She's dying because she's done. There's no way in hell you keep her in the story if she's done. She said this is it. She's done with Laurie Strode after this. And if they recast Laurie Strode for somebody else, I'm gonna be pissed. Jamie is Laurie Strode. That's it. End of story. If she's done, she's dying. She better go out awesome, and that's it. Plus, she only shot like, what was shooting? 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and she did like 2 or 3 weeks, and she was done.
Yeah, she didn't do much at all. Yeah, she didn't do much at all. She was actually filming a fucking Everywhere All at Once, Everywhere All the Way, whatever the other movie that just came out in theaters is. She just finished doing that movie while she was filming this one. So they did a bunch of stuff like all at the same time, which whatever. I totally get that, but yeah, man, I think that they're both gonna die in this movie. It's called Halloween Ends.
Well,
I don't
Michael's
think you
gonna
give him-
die. I'm doing quotations if you're not watching on YouTube. Michael's gonna die, but as you know, he never really dies. Like, they never really die. I think you could potentially, like, if they're really thinking it through, you killed off. Sorry, spoilers if you haven't watched Halloween Ends. I'm sorry, or Halloween Kills. I'm sorry. They killed off Jamie Lee's daughter. The granddaughter is going to be the heir apparent. If you really want to, you can have Halloween Ends and they both go out. Quotations again, and Michael really doesn't go out, and you can bring back the granddaughter to continue the struggle because she's young enough that you could do a couple movies with her and Michael. But you write Laurie out of it. Laurie has to die. I can't. If she lives, there's always going to be people wanting her to come back, right? I mean,
hear me out. This is what I honestly think is going to happen. I think that Laurie and Michael are going to take each other out because it just makes sense.
I think it should. It's poetic.
We already know the director, David Gordon Green. We already know that he's going now to do a remake or a requel, whatever, of The Exorcist. Like, he's doing that now. So his attention is going to be focused towards another horror classic. So whether he does that movie justice or not, depending on what you think of him as a director, this is going to be it for Halloween. They didn't give it this name for no reason. They gave it this name because they know what they're doing. They knew what they were getting into when they were doing the shit. They're going to kill both characters off. This is supposed to be the new definitive ending for the characters. And then, like I said, it's going to get rebooted again because it makes too much fucking money. They're definitely going to do more of the shit way later on. They're going to let the shit breathe. They're going to give it a minute. Scream's doing its thing right now. They're going to let Scream do its thing. Fucking the lawsuits and shit with Friday the 13th, I believe, are over now. So they can do more of that shit later. They're going to definitely capitalize on that shit. They're going to let Michael breathe for years. And then they're going to bring his ass back. They're going to do a whole other fucking thing. I already know. Yeah, this will be the last one. I fully believe that. I think that they're both gonna die. If they're saying it's gonna fuck you up, then I'm assuming Michael's gonna kill off the whole family. So Laurie's gone.
That would be badass, actually.
I mean, it would make sense. And then I think that's what's gonna happen.
Evil dies tonight. Evil dies tonight.
Trash, dude. Fucking.
Oh, you love Tommy in Halloween Kills. Tommy was your favorite character.
Like, when they announced who was playing Tommy because Paul Rudd was busy doing like Avengers shit or Ant-Man or whatever, I was like, all right, whatever. They gave us this guy. I really like this fucking actor, dude. Of course he was in fucking Breakfast Club. He's in a bunch of fucking 80s movies, but he was also in motherfucking sorry for my language, by the way, everybody. I'm just so upset. He was also in Edward Scissorhands with Johnny Depp, dude. He was the boyfriend, the jock asshole boyfriend in that film. And he looked the part. He played the part well, man. But like in this movie, like I can't blame him because he's just doing what he's told to do. But
I don't like how they wrote him.
Who thought that was a good idea? Like, I completely understand that they are completely they're making things very real world with, the election shit that just happened not too long ago and how people get with that and how shit is. I get that. But what pisses me off, dude, is like that was the whole movie. That shit happened like the halfway point, before the halfway point of the movie, and that's the whole thing. And then we get this whole scene with this dude at the damn hospital and they corner this guy, and then he jumps out the window and he kills himself. And like that was.
While you're on your rant, did nobody realize how much shorter that dude is than Michael? That like
they're all idiots. Everybody in that movie was a
Because
dumb piece
even
of shit.
shit, who was it that Tommy? All of them. You saw him. You know he's tall. This dude is hunched over. Like this is not Michael. You should. They don't even have the same body type. Like granted, it's what
Man,
40 years, but you're telling me Michael shrunk that much in 40 years?
I
That,
can't even like I can't even like I can't.
what
I just
about
have to
the
move.
best
Gotta
line
move
in the
on.
whole movie? When is it like when I see him, he's gonna meet old Hickory and he has that bat? I'm just like Jesus.
Oh, Huckleberry.
Huckleberry, there we go. Yeah, I was like, oh my god, dude. There were so many lines where I was just like, the mob got on my nerves really bad in that movie, and Tommy, whenever he died, I was like, thank gosh. That's terrible to say, but I was like, this character is just annoying. But at least Michael was still a badass in the movie. Michael handled his business as usual.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
we
let
got
that
on
go.
that.
I'm
Right. That's
dropping
a
that.
whole. We could do a whole podcast about Halloween. We could just go. That would be a long ass one. We could actually do a series on that because we'll
Yeah,
get on
we
tangents
we
bad.
should probably do all of the movies just
We should
in
do that
order.
closer to Halloween time. We should just go in depth and get
Yeah,
after it.
we'll do that. Jumping back on Universal. They gave us a new trailer, I believe, and more information on the Black Phone, which is one of my most anticipated movies of this year, horror wise. Anyway, I'm super excited about that. So I want to see that. Disney has their own kind of thing, so they held off a whole lot. They showed us shit we've already seen, which was like, Doctor Strange and pretty much all the movies that are coming out this year that we already know. They talked about those. They also talked about the second Avatar movie, like Avatar with the blue people and shit. Like they did mention that.
Did you really just say
Lion,
Avatar Blue People?
I did.
Oh my god.
I sure did.
Oh my god.
Because when I'm thinking Avatar, I'm thinking The Last Airbender, not the movie, because the
Somebody
movie.
cut that man off some whiskey. He just straight up said Avatar Blue People. Pass
I
the
didn't want to
whiskey.
go into it. I don't. They gave the movie a name, something about water. I don't remember
I
what the fuck
forgot
it
it.
is because
I'm not. I had to get
I
you on
just
that one.
didn't.
Okay.
I didn't care. I didn't care. I moved on.
All right.
Lionsgate talked about John Wick 4, and I think John Wick 5 too, because they're doing those back to back. So
Jesus.
yeah, John Wick. I mean, I don't even care. Like, just give me more John Wick. I know that
Yeah.
he's the Terminator. I don't care. Just I want to see it. I want to see Keanu Reeves beat the dog shit out of people. So let's go. I'm cool. They also talked about this movie called Devil's Light, which I need to look more into, but I was super excited to see what that's going to be. So we'll see what happens. And then other movies that they talked about that aren't in order, and I don't have like which studios they're coming from. They did talk about a Wicked movie coming out, which is the Wicked Witch of the West and East, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
they're working on that. I think it's coming out Christmas is when that's supposed to be coming out. It's got Ariana Grande in it, so it's going to be a musical. I'm not really into musicals. I did enjoy Hamilton, and The Lion King is fire, but other than that, musicals aren't really my thing. So I'm not excited for Wicked, but I know somebody close to me definitely is going to want to see that as soon as I tell her about it. So we'll see that, I'm sure. Um, they talked about Wonka, the Timothy Chalamet Willy Wonka movie coming out. They showed some footage for that as well. It's supposed to be really lighthearted and a musical. So it's going to be like the original, just the story of how he got his own factory. Because I believe in this film, he's like selling chocolate and candy and stuff on the streets. And, some girl finds a golden ticket and that kind of starts them on that journey. Um, they did talk about the Barbie movie with Margot Robbie. So and I think they dropped the poster for that too, so you can find that easily online as well. I mean, that movie's got a lot of like pretty nice actors and actresses in it, like Margot Robbie's Barbie, of course, Ryan Gosling's Ken, Will Ferrell's in the movie, Simu Liu's in the movie, America Ferrera's in the movie, Kate McKinnon's in the movie. So like, there's a lot of really good talent in that film, and it's looking like it's going to be something. So we'll see. I mean, I'm not like a big fan of Barbie, but I mean, if the movie's good, I'll give it a shot for sure. They did talk about Nope.
Christian
They
loves
showed
Barbie.
off, huh?
Christian loves Barbie. Just saying.
Jesus Christ. They absolutely talked about Nope. They showed a new trailer, which apparently gives you more information on what's happening in the movie. I do have some information on that, but I'm gonna choose to not spoil that for some people in case they don't want to know. By the
What
way,
movie is
oh,
that?
and I remember the Nope movie, Jordan Peele's Nope, the new
Oh,
film
okay,
he's
okay,
got coming
okay.
out. I just remember, by the way, the Avatar movie. It's called Way of the Water, and that's why I forgot it because I thought that was really boring, and I just
So
completely
Avatar
forgot.
Blue People.
Avatar Blue People, Way of the Water. Boring.
Jesus.
Sounds like something I wouldn't watch at all. But with that said, those are, oh, I forgot. Blumhouse showed off a movie that I'm actually excited for. And it might end up being like a guilty pleasure film for me, but it's a film they have out called Megan. They did show a trailer for Megan. I read the trailer description for Megan. I'm all into it. Um, you guys probably don't know, but I'm a huge fan of like killer doll movies, like Child's Play and shit. Put a killer doll in the movie, I'm into it. Minus Annabelle, the first Annabelle movie was one of the most boring movies I ever watched in my life. The second one was good though, and then the third one was trash. So with that said, I love killer doll movies. I love that kind of subgenre of horror, and Megan is in the same boat. It's kind of like the Child's Play remake that we got a couple years back. I think it was 2019 when we got that movie. Anyway, Megan is about this billionaire like tech woman who inherits her niece essentially because her parents pass away. She makes Megan the doll to protect the kid and kind of be her friend. And Megan has a mind of her own and goes crazy and starts fucking killing people. And I mean, that's what I wanted from a killer doll movie, is a doll killing people. So they already checked most of the
Christian, you
boxes
ask
for me.
you ask a lot for a killer doll movie. I just want you to know that.
Like, I mean,
You're demanding a lot from that script, sir.
right, right. I mean, honestly, man, like, as long as the script isn't garbage, like, as long as people aren't throwing out fucking one-liners the whole time, I'm okay with it. Like, just give me actors who can act, like, and a
Just give me
director who can
Huckleberry.
direct. Oh my God, Jesus Christ! Like, we're gonna have that conversation eventually on the podcast because that's such garbage. But anyway, Megan is going to be definitely one of the most anticipated movies for me, aside from what I've already mentioned. But I can't wait to see that movie. I hope it's not garbage. If anything, it'll be something that I like a guilty pleasure. It just sounds like I would, wholeheartedly enjoy it. But those are the films that are coming out that they've announced so far at CinemaCon, and I'm just super super excited to get more. Of course, all the superhero type movies we're going to get way more information on during Comic Con this year, whether that's whether that's live with people or they do it digital again, virtual, excuse me. But like, I'm super 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 excited for all the superhero stuff, obviously because I'm a giant nerd, but also just the movies that we did get some information on, and trailers and stuff. I'm super excited. Oh, and one other thing before I drop this completely. um if you don't want any spoilers for the new Flash movie, then just skip me like 30 seconds. But in the trailer that they showed, we do get Michael Keaton in his new suit, and he does say, "You want to get nuts? Come on, let's get nuts." Like, I had to let people know that that was there. So I'm back. If you didn't want the spoiler, then you successfully avoided the spoiler. But that was definitely there, and oh my God, dude, like,
Nice little nod to
goosebumps
the
right now.
1989 movie.
Yeah, yeah, I got goosebumps literally right now just talking about it. I'm so excited. I cannot wait to see his performance in the film. But with that said, that is all that I have for the CinemaCon news.
All right. Well, thank you for getting us up to date. There's a lot of movies there that interest me, a lot of stuff I want to see. Some stuff I really don't care about, but mostly there's a lot of good stuff. And yeah, and that's I think that's going to do it for this episode. But as you know, we like to end every episode with a last call question.
Pass the whiskey.
Oh,
Whiskey?
I don't have any whiskey on me. It really is last call. Oh no, I don't have a shot for it. But this week's question comes again from the one and only legend himself on the inside, Shout out on the inside. He's an OG in my streaming community. He's been around for a long time and a big supporter of the podcast. So shout out to you, sir, if you are listening, which I'm sure you are because you listen pretty much every week, and you're the man. But your question this week is, who is your current top bands or artist? Man, that's Christian. I have 3 off the top of my head right now.
Go for it.
Three bands right now that I can think of that are 4 bands I can think of right now that are in rotation pretty heavy for me. Whenever I'm just kind of chilling out listening, Polyphia, absolutely love them. Wage War, Ice Nine Kills, and Ghost Inside is always in rotation for me. It's 4 metal bands. I can't do math. Math is not my strong suit apparently, but those I would say are in rotation pretty heavy for me. Ice Nine, we listen to year round, but it gets really heavy on Halloween time because it just goes perfectly with our Halloween music. Because they're all, if you don't know what Ice Nine Kills is, essentially it's a metalcore band. They have singing, screaming, all that fun stuff, breakdowns, a lot of heavy stuff. But their live show is very into the theatrics, and their last 2 albums have been dedicated to horror movies. So it's horror and metal, and it is like peanut butter and chocolate for me. It is a perfect blend. It makes me happy. And yeah. So there's 4 I can think of off the top of my head, just throwing out there. Christian, who you got?
Polyphia is definitely on the list for me as well. I still listen to older volumes a lot.
Like older volumes, you mean like intake volumes? Like that's not the album, but the song that's on. I can't even remember what the name of the damn album was then.
But yeah, it's their first full length album, and
that's good. That's a really good album.
Their first 2 full length albums, absolutely. Their third one, I really enjoy too. It's not the best, but it's really good. And I've only heard one of their new songs from their newest album that's coming out, and it was okay. It wasn't my favorite. It was okay, but I do really enjoy them. Still, seeing them live was a treat. I really enjoyed that. One of my favorite metal bands right now. They've been one of my favorite metal bands for a long time. It's Brand of Sacrifice. I love them. I listen to them practically year round, especially when I'm doing any kind of workouts. That's definitely a go-to for me. I know that we talked about them recently, maybe on the last podcast, but The Midnight is another one of my favorite bands.
Good band.
They're year-round for me as well. I listen to them all the time, and that's another band that I can listen to, with anybody really, just because they're very they're malleable as far as the listening. It's very malleable, so I enjoy them quite a bit. And it's bands, man. That's a good question because I'm trying to listen to new stuff right now, see if there's any other bands I'm really into. I still go back to Toe a lot. That's a band that one of my best friends told me about years ago. Toe is a Japanese instrumental band in the vein of like Mono, if you heard of them, or I don't even know who else to attribute them to at the moment, but I really enjoy Toe. I listen to them year round. Wow, I should have thought about this harder while you were talking. Off the top of my head, man, when it comes to bands, those I would have to say are my favorites right now. Like, just they're always in rotation. Oh, Kubla Khan, that's another. They're always in rotation on my Spotify, and other than that, it's just like instrumental stuff. That's not a band. It's like a composer or something. So, if we're talking composers, definitely Hans Zimmer for sure. If he's not at least number 2 on your list, then you're crazy. So there's that. But yeah, man, as far as bands go, every band that I just said that I immediately forgot those bands. And then still to this day, man, I still listen to Linkin Park, like Hybrid Theory. That
was a really good album.
By the way. Yeah, man. Till this day, I still listen to them. I actually just bought that album on vinyl recently. I don't even have a fucking record player, but I bought it on vinyl. So, yeah, that's it. Right, to answer the question, those bands, including Linkin Park's first 2 albums. So there we go.
And if you have more music questions for us, or you'd like to hear more, like I said, we are going to do a music podcast eventually, where we just go down that rabbit hole, and that'll be fun. Hopefully soon. we may even get some guests in here. We may get some guests where me and Christian will talk to them and interview them and see what's up. So if you have any suggestions or anybody you would potentially like to see on the podcast, definitely let us know. Or if you want to submit a last call question, you can join the Gilded server, gilded.gg/Sinister Pack. In the application, just put from the podcast, and there's a whole section dedicated to the podcast, as well as there's a whole bunch of stuff for the live stream that I do. But just go in there, and there's last call questions. You can submit your question there, or you can hit us up on social media, either one of us. You can find Sippin With Sin everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Maybe that's not everywhere. Well, those 4 platforms, you can find it there. At Sippin With Sin, you can hit it up with the last call question, or just go show it some love. You can find me, myself, Sinister, pretty much everywhere. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. What else? Yeah, you can find me there at that's what I think. I'm tongue-tied because I got excited, listeners. You can find me at IamSinister TV on those places, as well as Facebook, fb.gg/IamSinister TV, streaming Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday mornings, early over there. And TikTok Live I've been doing around like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, around like, the afternoon time. So IamSinister TV on that. And then, of course, Twitch. We do Friday and Saturday mornings. IamSinister TV, twitch.tv/IamSinister TV. And if you want to watch the video version of this podcast, you can see it on YouTube. Just go to IamSinister. It is currently still on my personal YouTube, so just go there and you can watch the video version that airs every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Central Time. The same as the audio version goes live on Spotify, iTunes, Google, Overcast, and many, many more. Christian, where can everybody find you at?
You guys can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Vin and Inc. That is VENANDINK, Vin and Inc. That's where I am everywhere. Come find me. Come say hello. Come look at my face. Ask for my art. All the things. That's where to find me.
Heck yeah. But yeah, go show us some love on the socials. And again, if you have last call questions or if there's something you would like to hear in the podcast, news or something you would like us to go over and give our thoughts on a movie, if there's a movie you'd like us to watch, hit us up with suggestions, ideas. We appreciate it. Or if there's a guest you would potentially like us to see on the podcast, definitely let us know. But that is going to do it for this episode. We're going to wrap it up. And you know what time it is? It's time for Christian to close the damn thing down. Christian, get it.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of Sipping With Sin. Be sure to leave a 5-star review. Click that like button. Click the follow. And most importantly, guys, don't forget, don't get gutted.
Yes, sir. See you guys next time. Huckleberry rules.